How's it going, everybody? Jimmy Gann back after a little bit of a hiatus. I've been gone for about a month. I went to Seattle for a little while. Been training on a new job, planning a move. So I've been pretty busy lately. But I'm back. Man, the stuff that's been going on. Of course, the election and all that. So I just, I haven't really said anything about it yet because we all knew this was coming. We all knew this. It's been in the works for the past 6 months at least, between the coup flu and, the mail-in ballots and all this other stuff. It's getting really ridiculous. But we knew it was coming. It's not a big shock. This is not for anybody who leaned towards Trump. It's funny when you take that red pill and you can see everything now. And I know a lot of Democrats out there that did that. And now they can just see everything for what it is instead of just believing the mainstream news. I don't want to even call them mainstream. The lying media, the fake news, because that's what they are. I mean, you just had New York Times come out yesterday and say that there is no evidence of fraud. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? They just found in Pennsylvania or Michigan, one of the two alone, they found like 1,200 ballots of people with the birth date of January 1st, 1900. That's not any evidence at all? There's no evidence whatsoever? You're crazy. They're straight up lying now. And, for people to say, just move along, the media called it for Biden. That's it. Nothing else to see here. Yeah, right, whatever. That's not the way this stuff works.
I'd unfriend you.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
So, if it comes out to where Trump actually wins with all these lawsuits and everything that he's going on, it's going to be hilarious to watch. And I'm trying to think. I've always said we're screwed either way, no matter what. If Trump wins, then 10% of this country, these cities in this country are going to burn to the ground. And if Biden wins, then pretty much the whole country burns to the ground because we're just going to go back to the same old establishment that got us into all these wars and got us into, been selling us out to China for the last 40 years and selling us out to, all these other countries. You'll see the Middle East blow back up again instead of the peace that Donald Trump is trying to get going there. So that would be the saddest part about this whole thing. Is that all the work that Trump did towards bringing peace to the Middle East and it would just be blown up. It'd be gone. It's gone. You'll see our unemployment rates jump back up to 7-8% instead of 3.5 because that's what the Democrats need. The Democrats need you on unemployment. The Democrats need you to be reliable on them. That's why they did what they did in the black communities for so long. That's why most black communities are full of welfare people. It's not because black people are lazy or black people can't do anything. It's because the Democrats just make that the path that those people, that those neighborhoods have to take. And that's how they have the black vote every time. It's just the way it is. That's the way it is. And now they've got Antifa and all these far lefties on their side. And it's funny because they don't call them out. There's been a couple that called them out. There've been a couple. And they got destroyed. These moderate Democrats that called out these far left people like the Squad. They got torched between the media and the and the progressive Democrats, they got torched and told to shut up and sit down and follow the line. It's crazy. But I just wanted to talk a little bit because I hear all this about Electoral College, about the Electoral College. I wanted to show you some things about that that are kind of sad, that people don't realize what it means, what the Electoral College means, and what it entails. So this is a MSN News, Microsoft News. So this is a map. These are the states that have agreed to a plan to replace the Electoral College. And what do you know? Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, Illinois, New York State, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maryland, all the New Jersey, all the really far left, Hawaii, all the really far left states. You're talking about the top, 10 lefty states, but they're not as left as you might think. So that's what I'm going to show you. Let's take New York, for instance. I'm going to show you what happens when you don't have an electoral college, okay? And I'm going to go by state because this is very interesting. If you look at New York State and the way they vote, look at that. Look at that. Now there's 65 counties in New York? 67 counties in New York, something like that. And it's literally always been Democrat run, and except for Pataki, but he was pretty much a rhino anyways. I never liked that guy. But there you go. There's the thing there's the proof that the Electoral College works. Because if we had kind of somewhat of an Electoral College in New York State, these 13 counties, of course, you have Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Ithaca, which is a big college dumbass town. Then you got Albany. I'm not sure who's in there. But then you have New York City. Of course, Long Island and Suffolk County is red. But you have New York City, and you have the other 4 or 5 big cities in New York. And they're dictating the rules for everybody else. Everybody else. So that's all of New York State. That's all of New York State is pretty much red, except for those couple of little counties. But those all have the big cities in them. So how can you tell me that New York State is Democrat? You can't. You can't tell me that New York State is Democrat, but you have these big city idiots who are trying to dictate law for the whole rest of the county. Now, up here you have, the Adirondacks. It's very, very sparsely, very sparse with the residential, but it's fine. But again, because there's no kind of electoral college in New York State, they have no representation. They have no representation whatsoever. This is what happens when you go by popular vote. Because all you got to do is convince the city folk that the Republicans are bad. The Republicans are evil. They want to take away your welfare. They want to take away your this. They want to take away your that. They want to do this. They want to do that. And all of a sudden you have a whole city that just votes Democrat. And it's stupid because now the rest of the state has to put up with that. And if you look at this in the way of the United States, you have Wyoming, North Dakota, they're very sparsely residential. There's not a lot of people in these states. So if you have New York, Los Angeles, Dallas, and Chicago, and Detroit, let's say, or Minneapolis, dictate who's going to win. Those people in the Midwest never have a voice. And then all of a sudden, these people are making rules and regulations that don't have anything to do with these people in the Midwest. That could never even possibly work. But yet, we have to abide by them. You got Cuomo who's trying to tell everybody that you got Cuomo that's trying to tell people, if you like your guns and your Bible, then get the hell out of my state. Well, dipshit. If that's the case, most of your state's going to leave. I'm leaving. I'm out of here. So I just want to show you, this is just New York. Here's the interesting one. Washington, okay? Now you would think Washington, because of Seattle, is a huge liberal hive. It's just huge, right? Well, there you go. 3/4 of the state's Republican. You've got all these coastal cities like Seattle. Seattle's right here, right in here. I think Seattle's right in here. King County. Yeah, I think it's King County. That's where Seattle is. But you got most of the state that's red. Why is that? So now you have one city, basically one city. Let's see. Sonomish. Wow. I didn't notice that either. And that's even funnier because now you're talking King County, which is Seattle. I believe it's Seattle. Yeah, that's got to be Seattle. They didn't even pump out. I mean, there's just over 1 million votes in Seattle, in the whole county of where Seattle is. So hardly anybody even voted. So that tells you even more that how much control they had. I'm not sure what the population of Seattle is, but I sure know that there should be more than 1 million, just over 1 million votes there. That's for sure. But even still, you got counties out here. Look at the size of this county, and they only had 20,000 votes. 4,000 votes. But these are, upper northeast, eastern Washington, which is it's all mountainous and not a whole lot of populations up in here. But still, that's crazy that there's that low of a turnout, and yet Seattle still pretty much dictates the whole state. Yeah. Oregon, home of Portland, that's been burning down for the last 6 months. You'd think that was a liberal hive mind, right? That was completely liberal. Look at that. Look at that. One city dictates pretty much the whole state. And I would say at least three quarters of the state is red. At least 3/4 of the state is red. But they have no representation. They might be able to get a senator or a House seat out there. That's it. But when it comes to president or anything else, this is what you get. You have one city pretty much in all of Oregon that dictates the whole rest of now. This shocked me because you think of Oregon, you think far left Antifa, this, that, and the other thing. And then you go look at how they voted, and it's like, wow. There's a lot of people in the state that don't get represented, right? That's because it's popular vote. Popular vote. And that's why we have the Electoral College right there. Now, California's a little different. California's always a little different. You can see, there's more Democrats than there are Republicans, but that's why California's pretty much shot. They're pretty much not going anywhere because they're bankrupt. They're pretty much bankrupt, California, and a lot of could have a lot to do with people moving out of there too. Because there's a lot of people who would consider themselves conservative that have moved out of California because they can't take it anymore, and they go to places like Texas and in Colorado and stuff like that, New Mexico. So maybe in the more people that move out of California, the more the only ones there left are Democrat. I don't know. It could be, but that's if you ask me for a Democrat state, for a state that votes blue every single time, that's pretty much what it should look like. At least it should look like that. And it's still really close to half and half. It's not. It's more than half are Democrat. But it's at least it looks like it should go blue. You know what I mean? At least it looks like it should be a blue state. That's a good example of what a blue state should look like right there. So I wanted to show you that because that's I can call that one blue. Illinois. Let's look at Illinois. Wow, man. Are you kidding me? Look at that. Look at that. That's Illinois'. That's how Illinois votes. That's Illinois. And it's a completely lefty, so-called lefty state. But really, it's not. You have like maybe 4 or 5 cities in there that are dictating the whole state. But the whole state's red. The whole state is red. That should not be a blue state. But, where the population votes, they vote the blue. And, that's the way it goes. Let's pick another one. Let's see. Let's go with New Hampshire, because that's a good one. What does New Hampshire look like? Wow, there you go. That's what a blue state should look like. Of course, the population is very small, and you have a better chance of being blue when you have a small population like that. So you would necessarily have to have that to be blue in a place like New Hampshire. But on the other hand, if you're going to be a blue state, that's what it should look like. Let's pick another good one. Let's go with Pennsylvania. Let's see what Pennsylvania looks like, because there's so much turmoil in Pennsylvania right now. Bam! Look at that. Look at that. You're gonna sit there and obviously you have Philadelphia down here and Pittsburgh and Harrisburg. I think is here, or is this Harrisburg and this is Pittsburgh? I can't remember. This is Erie County up here, which is close to New York, which is right on the border of New York. So, Buffalo, that's the Buffalo area. So that makes sense up there. And Philadelphia down on the bottom. Of course, that's all that borders New Jersey. So that's, okay. But that's what I'm talking about, though. Look at all the red in there. That shouldn't be a blue state. You have very, very few counties who are picking the winners and losers. You have a couple of tiny counties who are picking the winners and losers of these states. New York shocked me. I was really shocked about New York. Let's go with New Jersey. Let's see what New Jersey looks like. Okay, that's what a blue state should look like. It's a little over half. It's a little over half are blue counties. But the funny part is this one right here, Salem County. This is kind of like where it borders on Philadelphia, and it's red. But that if I'm gonna pick a blue state, that's what it should look like. California, New Jersey, probably Massachusetts. I haven't looked at Massachusetts. Let's see what that looks like. Oh yeah, look at that. Massachusetts all blue. It's all blue. That's funny. But it's a completely blue state. That's the way it should look. Let's try Texas, because Texas has been like, yeah, there you go. See, that's what a red state should look like. That's what a red state should look like. And you got, a couple of counties like, I think Dallas is here, and Houston, and then of course Fort Bend. Oop. And of course you got down on the border, all up and through here. But this is funny. Zapata County. I think that's the one. Zapata County is the one that's like the biggest Latino population, and it went red this time. That's funny. That's hilarious. But there you go. Again, they were really scared that Texas was going to flip, and I'm sitting here looking at the map, going, how can it flip when you have that much red? How can it even be a thing? Florida. Let's look at Florida. There's a couple of examples of this. There it is. Wow. It's a lot of red. It's a lot of red. But New York has just as much red, but they're Democrat. It doesn't make any sense. New Mexico. It's about half and half. It's a little more than half of red. So I mean that one I can kind of see, because even with an electoral college type of deal in the state, obviously Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and all those would have more bigger populations, so they'd have more votes. But it might make it close. You know what I mean? That would be a good race. So if anything, we don't need to get rid of the Electoral College. We need to implement it more into each state too. Then that would be more of a fair election, if you ask me. It's like, and here's the results for Syracuse, for Central New York, for anybody who's interested. Republican. Oh, we found one Democrat for the Supreme Court, the 7th District. Republican. One Democrat for the state Senate in the 53rd District. Republican. Democrat for the 119th District. Republican. Democrat. Republican. One more Democrat. But these are for the 128th, 129th, 127th. So I think those are all down in New York City, of course. Republican. Family Court. This is for Onondaga County. The Democrat won the Family Court. Democrat. Camillus. Republican. Democrat. Republican, 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 R. Oh, the Clyde trustee is the Democrat. R. So it just doesn't make any sense that this many counties and towns and cities in towns and cities voted for this many Republicans, but yet you're telling me that the potato head won. He got 51% of the vote. And not one vote for a libertarian or anything else. Funny. And it's not horribly. I mean, it's 4 or 5 million people, but shit, you can go 10 city blocks in New York City, 20 city blocks in New York City, come up with 5 million people. So, anyways, there's another thing that I wanted to talk about in this election cycle, which is kind of weird. I saw this special on Netflix. It's called Connected. If you haven't looked at it, it's pretty interesting. It's got some good stuff. It's a science journalist, Latif Nassar, investigates the surprising and intricate ways in which we are connected to each other, the world, and the universe. And it's a good show. I like it. It's interesting, very interesting. But I watched one episode called Digits, right? And he explores a law of numerical probability that applies to classical music, contemporary social media, tax fraud, and perhaps the entire universe. And this is the episode right here. And what he's talking about is Benford's law. And it's very interesting. Benford's law says that if you go through your day and you mark down every number that you see, all the numbers that you see throughout your day, you'll have a curve, like a curve. You'll see more ones than twos, more twos than threes, more threes than fours, more fours than fives. And then when it gets down to eights and nines, it kind of flattens out at the bottom a little bit. But you'll see this curve. You'll see like this curve here. It's just kind of it's very interesting. But they also use it for tax fraud. Well, nobody in the IRS will admit it, but one of the things he says is that a lot of people think that the IRS uses this Benford's law so that they can point out where fraud is. Because if the numbers don't line up, that means there's something wrong. Because it just happens so much. The statistical probability that it's wrong is so high that they use this. I'm not saying that it's always right, but it's like 99%. That's the way numbers work. For some reason, naturally, that's just the way numbers work. So he was talking about how they can detect election fraud. I'm surprised this is still up. I'm surprised that this episode is still up. But he was at the end. He was talking to a bunch of experts, and they were talking about how they could detect election fraud with these numbers because it's just that precise. When it comes to numbers, that thing is that precise where they can start looking at numbers and detect election fraud. Well, here's Benford's law in Chicago, just Chicago alone. I can show you a bunch of them, but here's Joe Biden's number. Here's the Benford's law. Let me get this up. This is the line that Benford's law is supposed to follow. You can see Donald Trump's is pretty close. Howie Hawkins is pretty close. Gloria LaRiva. Gloria LaRiva. I think I'm saying it right. I don't know. Sorry, Gloria. But it follows the line somewhat. You know, all of these, Joe Jorgensen is almost perfectly following the line. But look at Joe Biden's right here. Boom. All these spikes in the middle. That's where you detect it. That's where it looks like this is not what it's supposed to be. Okay? And the funny part is that you break this out on Twitter or something like that, and they block it and they ban it and they call it misinformation. When this is like one of the biggest formulas for finding things like this that people have. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm just showing you what I see here. That's it. Do I believe it? I don't know. I've seen videos that debunk it that says this, that, and the other thing about how Benford's law doesn't apply to this case because of this, that, or the other thing. They tell you that you know, there's not enough 3-digit numbers, or there's not enough this and there's not enough that to make this work. But then you look at it and you go, well, why do all these other ones pretty much work? Why do all of these other ones look pretty good, except for this Howie Hawkins one's a little bit, but it still follows the line. There's not big spikes. It does have the line. Why do all of these other ones look like they somewhat work? And the interesting part is that this is where it looks bad, because you have these big huge spikes right here on 2s, 3s, and 4s, and the 2s, 3s, and 4s on Donald Trump's are way lower than what they're supposed to be. So that's what it looks like. And I'm sorry, but you know, Benford's law, I don't know if it works. I don't know. I do know that a lot of people use it to find a lot of things. Well, I think that's how they catch a lot of these pyramid schemes and things like that. They look at these numbers, and then they can round things up. So, all right. Well, I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. I know there's a lot going on. I'm interested to see what happens, but frankly, either one winning doesn't change my life. I got better things to worry about than a Cheeto and a potato. So, I don't know. I hope Donald Trump wins, because my core issues are, number one, war. I want to get out of these goddamn wars and have world peace. That would be nice. I don't know about world peace, but peace. There's always going to be an asshole or two out there. You got a bunch of communist countries out there, and I think China's going to be ramping things up. But there's a lot of things going on over there too. I might do a show on that because of their one-child policy. All of those one-child policy kids are now in the military age, and nobody wants them to go to war because they only have one child. And the way things work in China is that the child takes care of the parents when they grow up. So they don't have a retirement plan and all that stuff. They're reliant on their children. This is why they push their children to go through school and do so well, so that they can get a good job later on, so that the parents are taken care of when the child grows up. This is why you have so many Chinese people who are just focused, because they know they have a duty to take care of their parents when they grow older. They have a duty. It's the way things work. But now you have the communist government who wants to start wars with Taiwan and you know, Hong Kong, the stuff they're doing in Hong Kong and all that other stuff. And all the people are terrified because they only have one child. And if that child gets taken out in a war, there's no compensation for that over there. There's no compensation at all. And that terrifies most people in China. So I don't know. Hopefully they can stand up to it and be done with it. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting. if Joe Biden wins, then I don't think we'll have to worry about anything, because we'll just go back to the same old of China owning us, China just owning all our debt and not paying a cent back to us. And we just keep borrowing money from them because China's bubble is about to burst, and it's going to get bad. It's going to get bad. But then you'll see, America will become Hong Kong, I think. But it's funny, I just read an article today that Joe Biden, the office of the president-elect. There is no office of the president-elect, dipshit. This is how crazy they're getting. But he's trying to get national security clearance. And thank God the people that are there now are going, no, you're not president yet. You don't get the right. You're not president yet. This is not how this works. And the way they're pushing it and the way the big tech is pushing it is just mind-boggling. So, anyways, I'm ranting on. Well, that's it for today. I'm just going to do kind of a short one because, getting back into the swing of things. I know there's a ton of stuff to talk about, but I just wanted to throw this out there for the Electoral Collage and get that. And just make that point that I've been wanting to make for a couple weeks now. All right, so love you. See ya.